Welcome to chapter 9. Once we finish reading this chapter, we will be halfway-ish through the book. I mean, like halfway through the chapter we'll be halfway because there are 19 chapters, but still, I'm not gonna lie, I don't always love the thumbnails I get, so let's just do like a really dramatic eye-catching one. Oh my gosh! I don't know what I'm doing. Clearly. Let's just get into it. We last left off with Shelly dreaming, so let's see what happens next. Chapter 9, Losing Grip. John jolted awake. The alarm that sounded came from no clock, but from the blaring shouts of his wife. Shelly's sleeping voice lacked diction and vowels blended together. He thought it best to drag her out of whatever dream controlled her current destiny. Nudging her shoulder, John spoke softly. Shelly, wake up. Come on, Abby. The last time John had used that nickname was in spring, before the miscarriage. Hearing it must have awoken Shelly, at least for a few seconds, because she wriggled her head around, her eyes flitting half open. John used to tease her with the nickname before they started dating, twirling her auburn-colored hair. Over time, Shelly acted less annoyed by the teasing and fonder of it. Just as easily as the nickname had pulled her awake, her eyes shut, and any appearance of consciousness fled. John placed his hand on her cheek and rubbed it with his thumb. Should he say something, or should he let her slumber? As he pondered what to do, Shelly's nose scrunched up. Don't. Stop it, she said. John paused but left his hand on her cheek. He considered removing it, wondering if she had woken up again. Shelly? Shelly's face stayed crinkled, as if someone had cemented it in concrete. Owen, don't. Owen? The name didn't sound familiar to John. He had never met anyone named that, nor could he recall Shelly ever speaking of or referring to someone by that name. For a moment, John decided he did not like this unknown man. He wondered what this Owen could have possibly done to earn a spot in his wife's brain. Likely, nothing worthwhile. Nothing more than what John could do for or offer Shelly. Nothing better. As he made these comparisons, John became aware of an energy seeping out of him. He stopped his fit over his wife's unconscious mention of another man's name and put the disconcerting feelings aside. You're okay, John whispered. He leaned into the little space between them and kissed Shelly's forehead. Like the unraveling of a curtain, Shelly's contorted face came undone, returning to a peaceful state. A yawn left her lips as she woke up. Bad dream, Shelly said. Drawing her in, sweat slicked off Shelly and onto John. It shocked him. Were her dreams always this bad? He'd heard her sleep talk, but John was a deep sleeper, so maybe he hadn't noticed the nightmares. A part of him felt like he would have. There had been no other night in which he awoke to his wife crying out. This is a really bad one, huh? John said. As her breathing slowed, Shelly seemed to become more aware. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. That's okay. What were you dreaming? No response came. Shelly? I don't remember, she said. Thank you for helping me. No problem. You going to be okay? Her head moved up and down against his chest. Already feeling better. It didn't take long for her breath to fall into a restful rhythm. Satisfied, John checked the clock. 2:32 a.m. and closed his eyes. He could sleep for at least 7 more hours. The worst noise. A phone ringing was the worst noise to wake up to. Why would someone call while the sun was still rising? Shelly couldn't think of anyone that would wake up at that time, aside from bird watchers, elderly folk, and her soon-to-be Buddhist monk brother, Brandon. Even these morning risers must not speak coherent conversations at that time of day, let alone pursue them over the telephone. John seemed annoyed as well. Judging by his Medusa stare down with the phone, he was not happy. Shelly hoped the stare would work and the phone would turn to concrete. The phone repair bill would suck, but at least she'd have a few more moments of rest. The ringing ended. Her hopes had come true. Temporarily. A few seconds later, the ringing resumed, and because it sounded closer to her head, Shelly bore the responsibility of answering. As tempting as it was, Shelly could not ignore the call. Anyone could be calling about anything, and if the anything was important, which it likely was if they bothered to call twice, she'd regret silencing her phone. It's my mom, Shelly grieved. Does she not remember that we're 2 hours behind her? John said. Groaning, Shelly answered the call while smushing the phone between her face and the pillow. Hey, Mom. Hey, Gumdrop. A verbal ugh came out of Shelly. She hated that nickname, but had never told her mother. Each time her mom called her that, it made Shelly imagine chewed-up gum dropped onto a sidewalk. Her hand flew to her mouth as she realized what her sleep-deprived self had done. What? Mrs. Lancaster hit the pronunciation of the T hard. Clearing her throat, Shelly said, Sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just waking up, so that was more about that than anything. You should go on. Well, I didn't hear from you yesterday, so I thought I would give you a call. What's going on? Shelly couldn't tell if she still needed to snap out of her sleepiness or if her confusion was a realistic result of Mrs. Lancaster's question. Sorry, what? I wanted to know what's going on. You never called yesterday. Slumber slowed Shelly's recollection. Did it matter if she called yesterday? There wasn't any event going on, at least none that she knew about. No birthdays or holidays. Then she remembered. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. Were you still expecting me to call yesterday? Well, you said you would, she said. Many things had happened the day John had food poisoning, one being a phone call that Shelly had abruptly ended, promising her mother she would talk to her on Sunday, which was yesterday. However, her mom had unexpectedly called her ahead of schedule on that Friday. I'm sorry, Mom. I mean, we talked for a while a few days ago. There's not much more for me to share or say. Nothing's happened. Was it so bad she forgot to call? Doesn't matter. If you say you will call someone. That's called respect. And if all people, she reminded Shelly, you should respect your mother. I gave up a lot while raising you. I only ask for some time back to chat. Shelly sighed, knowing the debasing had only begun. If she accepted her mistake early on, she would suffer less damage. I'm sorry. I understand. Next time, just communicate with me if you can't call. I know things come up. Believe me, I totally get that. But it's rude to keep people in the dark, and I was really sad not to get a call from you. If you're not going to call me, let me know and we will reschedule. But hopefully that doesn't happen often. Right, Shelly said, almost accepting her mother's words. But then she added, I've been busy, is all. Her short attempt at an explanation might slide through unnoticed in another conversation, but not this one. Doesn't matter. You still need to communicate with me. I miss talking to you. I want to know what's going on in your life. It's not easy for me, with your brother completely unreachable and your sister refusing to talk to me. Do you think that doesn't make things hard for me? I love my children, and I want the best for them. I want to see them okay and safe, and I want to hear what's going on in their lives and the great things they're doing. I want to help. But I can't do that if you don't talk to me. I can't do that if you don't communicate with me when you can't call. It shows me no respect. I want to talk to you, okay? So just let me know next time, and that way we can avoid this in the future. Shelly boiled inside. Multiple times she tried to interject with sympathy or correction, but interceding her mother's dialogue was difficult. She might as well try to cut through a rock with a butter knife. Mom, Shelly began, doing her best impression of the humbled student her mother wished her to be. I'm not done. Muting the phone first so her mother could not hear, Shelly screamed into the pillow. John rolled to face the bedroom wall, disturbed and attempting to maintain some form of a restful state. Aware of his desire to sleep and not hear his mother-in-law's voice, Shelly sacrificed the support she wanted and entered the living room, engaging in the conversation completely alone. Her mother had continued on, unaware that Shelly had heard nothing. Plopping onto the brown couch, Shelly started listening again and heard, Not completely your fault. I'm not just upset at you. I've had a hard weekend. Work has been super busy, and I'm having a hard time keeping up. My boss keeps bothering me. Shelly nodded her head, recalling this information from their most recent phone call. I think I gained a couple of pounds, which is my own fault for not going to the gym on Thursday or Friday, but I had to go into work early those days and it was hard, and I haven't been eating the best. So it's not just you. Your sister is as difficult as always. She even answered the phone the other day just to hang up in my face. Not a word except for her complaints about getting a call from her mother. Meanwhile, most kids call their moms every day, by the way. And then Sunday rolls around and I thought to myself, wow, it will be really nice to hear from Shelly. I wonder what's going on in her life. I can't wait to hear. Then the day goes by and you don't call because my daughter doesn't want to talk to me. She's too busy. Mom, I'm not finished. Now, like I said, it's not your fault. Really, it's mainly a lot of other things that's got me upset and this is just bad timing. But that's okay. I just need you to make sure you communicate with me in the future. It shows me respect and it helps me to make sure you're okay. Because what if you weren't? I'd have no way of knowing. Okay, Shelly recited. I want to talk to you, sweetheart. I love you. Mrs. Lancaster seemed to finish her digest. The next response from Shelly determined much, though she had yet to comprehend how much. If she submitted to her mother's thoughts and wishes, they continue on to a casual conversation, most likely with little mention to Shelly's previous infraction. If she attempted to correct or adjust any information her mother said, she would be reminded thoroughly of her mistake. Shelly did not feel bold enough to stand up to Mrs. Lancaster. However, she did feel tired enough to say, I love you too, Mom. And just because I'm busy doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. Could have fooled me. That's not fair. Shelly swung her feet off the couch and planted them on the ground. I know we didn't talk much on Tuesday, but John was sick. We talked plenty on Friday morning. It's not like I don't want to talk to you. I called you on Friday, and you even had to leave to go run errands. Then came more reasons why Shelly needed to act like a more grateful, kind daughter, because of things her mother's friends had said about Shelly, things that had happened in the past, and things that most daughters supposedly did, or ways they supposedly acted like. After all this conversational wind and rain beating Shelly's skin to a dry, weathered piece of leather, Shelly thought she might as well subject herself to her mother's desires. I'm sorry. Thank you. After years of doing the same duo dance routine with her mother, Shelly never managed to stray far from the pattern. Don't resist, and if you do, eventually, don't resist again. Listen to her. Agree with her. Learn to say okay. Then leave and don't speak until she calls on your presence again or until you suddenly feel the desire to dance. So, Mom, Mrs. Lancaster cut her off. How have you been? Not much different than last Friday. Shelly checked the clock. Already the conversation had carried on for over 30 minutes. Oh, really? There must be something different. Tell me, what's going on in your life? Any new art pieces? You haven't sent me any for a few months now. No new art pieces, Shelly said, but we brought some brownie bites to Amber and Lucas on Sunday. Oh, that sounds fun. Mrs. Lancaster sounded unfocused and less than genuine, almost as if she had been cast as a mom in a play, but she happened to be a poor actor. Tell me more about that. Shelly did not want to say more, but the words came regardless. Well, Amber didn't answer her phone much, which was weird, and we wanted to congratulate them on the pregnancy, so John and I dropped off some brownie bites. Pregnant? How old is she? Mrs. Lancaster said. She's like a year younger than me. Wow, that's really young. Well, at least you know better. Wait until you're 30. There's no reason to rush. A burning seared her eyes as Shelly's throat tightened. Some 7 seconds of sweet silence passed. Are you going to ask what's going on in my life? Deborah said. Shelly tried to answer. We just spoke Friday. Fine. So how come you're not painting art? Breathing out, Shelly said, It's not that I'm not painting. I have classes and whatnot. Then how come you don't have any new art pieces? My walls have been looking quite bare lately. Mrs. Lancaster tried to tease. Shelly responded quickly. I've been busy. I study more than I paint now, so lots to read and see. Sketch. I find it hard to believe that your professors don't require any paintings. Are you sure you're not bored of painting? You could pursue something else, keep doodling as a hobby. Doodling? Well, after all, you said you're only sketching. They're not doodles, Mom. Oh, gumdrop. The nickname dug into Shelly's nerves. There's no need to get offended. I always call those things doodles, and I've seen some really good doodles, like Vincent van Gogh. He has some great doodles. It's nothing offensive. It's just my name for it. The obligation to talk lost its power and influence. Shelly moved the phone from her face and looked at the time again. 47 minutes would need to suffice for her mother. Okay, well, I'm going to go, Mom. Wait, no, we just started talking. I know, but I need to get ready for the day. Are you sure this isn't about the doodles thing? I didn't mean any harm by it. No, Shelly partially lied. I really need to go. Okay, we'll talk another time. If the conversation needed to end, of course her mother would commit her to conversing more later. As soon as Shelly disconnected the call, she changed the settings on her phone. Do Not Disturb mode would go on at 9 p.m. and stay on until 8 a.m. No texts, no calls, no notifications would come in unless they were from John. Next, she opened up her text messages. Her fingers flicked around her phone furiously. She didn't know why she sent a text to this person. They hardly spoke anymore, but she needed to talk to someone who understood. To her sister, Savannah, Shelly messaged, Hey, can you talk sometime? I need help with Mom. I need advice. Savannah normally responded slowly, so Shelly stopped. Savannah, who somehow had consciousness before 10 in the morning, responded. The quick reply surprised Shelly. How had her sister woken up so early? She was like Brandon's opposite in all habits. Anxiously, Shelly opened the message. Tell me everything. Another unsatisfactory phone call. Shifting a photo of her once young children on the desk, Deborah clutched her phone. She could dwell on the conversation, think of how much she missed her children, of what she might be doing wrong. Or she could use work to distract her, as she was sitting in her office. Instead, she opened up her Christian dating app as a reprieve. It would help her forget for a few minutes, and then she could resume her responsibilities. Her many, many responsibilities. In the app, she saw no new potential dates. The week before, she had matched with plenty of older, less glamorized versions of Chris Hemsworth. None of them had responded to Deborah when she messaged them. This did not mean that men hadn't sought Deborah through messaging or other means, but Deborah refused to accept pity dates or meetups with men below her standards. She feared that if she dated with sympathy, she would end up with someone similar to her ex-husband. Then she would become miserable or double divorced. Deborah convinced herself that she could never be both miserable and divorced if she stayed confident and happy because living alone meant she had the best roommate, herself. The sorrowful thought provided her a small amount of relief, so she continued to think it could sustain her. Deborah knew she was not the best roommate for herself, or probably for most others, as no one, including her kids, stuck around. But she lived what she feared was the natural path of her life. An unlucky path she landed on, but one she believed she could not escape. She tried not to invest herself fully in this belief and acted with her best form of hope. One day, she thought, she might meet someone that would stick around. Then she'd get all the happiness God had ever promised her. On the app, Deborah swiped positively for a few men she found attractive and interesting. Men who seemed competent. Deborah spent most of her life learning that men found intelligent women intimidating, but at least a competent man could keep up. Perhaps more important to her, she also needed a man with a healthy lifestyle, someone not expecting to exit this world within the next couple decades. At times, she wondered if this particular requirement made sense, or if she justified it through conceited means. Looks aren't everything, right? Then again, what would she do if she found her partner physically unattractive? How could she enjoy life if her lover stayed on the sidelines every time Deborah wanted to do an activity that involved fitness? When she chose not to work, YouTube yoga sessions and private tennis matches filled a large chunk of the empty space in her weekends. That and the occasional speed walking through Madison Square Park. No, Deborah refused to experience further loneliness in the things she loved. She wanted someone who could relate to her about the deepest of passions, and thus, she needed someone physically fit. A man who, at the very least, could join her on the tennis court. She already tried someone who wouldn't, and it didn't work. One man in particular lit up her screen, and not because she turned the brightness all the way up. This 6-foot hero glowed. His sun-bathed skin and whitened teeth displayed both his confidence and class. An appearance like that could only come from a combination of nature and men's beauty enhancers. She did a brief analysis of his bio. I like dinner dates or time spent staying active, looking for someone who does both. Deborah liked dinner. Judging by his biceps, he meant it when he said he enjoyed staying active. Assuming his competence matched his level of confidence, Deborah might have stumbled upon the best jackpot a non-gambler could win. All the slots lined up and money filled her love bucket. Rather than her usual swipe of approval, Deborah jumped at the chance to send a message to. She forgot to check his name. Jack Daniels. A handsome name, she thought. She chose to go against her conventions and send the first message. With this prized opportunity before her, she didn't see how she could resist. Maybe this one would want to go on a date with her, and maybe it wouldn't be horribly arduous. As she created her message, she resolved to keep her approach simple. Hi, handsome. Delete. Too straightforward. Deborah started and ended 3 more drafts before she composed something satisfying. After deleting that, she composed 1 more draft and sent it. Hey, Jack, you seem to get outdoors a lot. Ever been to Mad Square Park? Insert silly emoji face. I think it's great, but overcrowded. Your thoughts? The message sent and the phone thunked as she flattened it on her wooden desk. It was done. She had done it. The app had cut into 20 minutes of work time, so Deborah decided to use the next 10 minutes to go to the lobby floor and purchase a smoothie, before other workers overloaded the line, waiting for their coffee fix. Getting food in her would help her focus. After she returned with the smoothie in hand, she would later work through her lunch break, fixating on business matters strictly, making up for the little love-struck incident. Windows scaled the walls and filled the lobby with daylight. Fake miniature trees lined across these walls and stood as the sole representation of nature in the lobby. When Deborah moved out of the elevator and saw the coffee stand, she released all of her previous resolve. Already before her was a line of 10 people, with a few other employees staggering over earnestly while trying to appear unconcerned about their mutual dilemma. Like a sheep in a crowd, Deborah picked up her walking pace and placed herself in the 13th spot in line. She released the oxygen held tightly in her lungs. Fast walking was paying off. If no one brought up a group order, she would get her smoothie soon. Deborah searched the faded beige board to ensure her usual choices remained: the raspberry coastal smoothie and the berry antioxidant smoothie. Usually she decided what to drink before she came down. Maybe she needed the 12 people ahead of her. Deciding between both of her regulars required an adequate amount of thought. Taste mattered to an extent. the extent that Deborah cared about enjoying her food versus enjoying her body shape. The former did not often exceed the latter in importance, so she had memorized the nutritional information for both of the smoothies, staying informed and aware of the input effects. The coastal smoothie contained more sugar but less calories, and most of the sugar came from the inclusion of lemonade. It tasted perky. The antioxidant smoothie, on the other hand, reminded her of a batch of blueberries that had missed their prime. However, it contained added vitamins and less sugar, most of which came naturally from the fruit. The battle became one of a guilty pleasure and a guilted choice. Her silent thought pattern of bullets and cannons stopped when Deborah's boss, Theodore, bypassed the extended line of trousers and blouses to apologetically ask the brown suit man behind her if he could cut in. I have a meeting coming up soon and need to discuss a few things with my employee. Ah, thank you. Wondering if he meant her, Deborah did not move her eyes off the menu. Deborah! Theodore slapped his hand on her shoulder and promptly removed it, and though Deborah felt shaken, most would have thought it more likely that a fly had landed on her. What meeting did they have? Deborah could not believe her forgetfulness. That dating gap truly did her in. Wide-eyed and stiff postured, she responded, Theodore. Ted. He smiled. She moved her neck a few centimeters to glance backward. Ted, how are you doing? She spoke as if making an unwanted, yet necessary acquaintance with a stranger on the bus. Just grand, Deborah, Theodore belted and then echoed. Just grand. Mrs. Lancaster, she muttered. Theodore laughed, hearing and politely ignoring her minor correction. So, tell me, Deborah, what have you been up to lately? A light of knowledge beamed into her conscience. She knew what her boss wanted. No need to worry, Theodore. I've been working on the Stanford issue. I've sent the information to the claim agents, along with some photos and the owner's description of the catastrophe. Theodore nodded his head but didn't say anything, so she continued. I also drove over to the house and checked it out myself, just to ensure that all the information was described and given accurately. It turns out there was a reasonable, non-contaminant reason for the water being green. Her boss's head nodding turned to head shaking. Trying to read his face and stop any disapproval, Deborah said, I promise it's all dealt with properly, and if the claim agents don't handle it in a timely manner, I will continue to nudge the case forward myself. Theodore laughed, still shaking his head. Deborah, I can't believe you thought I was asking about that. Lowering his voice, he said, We're on break. There's no need to talk about work right now. The shift in conversational expectations confused Deborah. When he had cut in line, did her boss not mention that he needed to talk about an upcoming meeting? In addition, Theodore may have lowered his voice, but he did not have the capability to speak softly. Behind them, the man in the brown suit shifted his weight between feet, disgruntled. Okay, well, what was the question? Delighted, Ted repeated. What have you been up to lately? Anything interesting from the weekend? Church. Deborah couldn't think of anything else. She wondered how pathetic she must have sounded and scrambled from her activities to report back. A lot of relaxing. Some work. A tennis match with my friend. Wait, work? Did I assign you to come in this past weekend? Oh no, I went over a few things at my home. A crease appeared between Theodore's brows as if he were going to question this, but instead the lines in his face smoothed and he said, So, you're a churchgoer. Deborah counted the people ahead of her. 4. The line shifted and someone appeared from behind a stand full of mugs and other merchandise. 5. I'm a churchgoer. It wasn't a holiday yesterday, was it? No, I go every week. Wow, and you like tennis? It's a sport that tests intellect, strategy, and fitness. Precision. I like it very much. Theodore whistled. Play with anyone fun? Serena Williams? Novak Djokovic? Her overplucked eyebrows arched, creasing her forehead. He butchered Djokovic's, I probably just butchered it, lost name, but tennis amateurs hardly ever mentioned anyone aside from Williams. Deborah weakly launched a laugh into the air as she stumbled over her surprise. She checked the line, 3 people ahead. No one that competitive. Just a close friend from church. For the first time, Ted turned away from Deborah, his lips forming into a thin line. Before he faced her directions again, another person had placed their order and stepped into the waiting area. The person behind them followed. They must have ordered together. One person left, and Deborah could politely exit the conversation without fear of any workplace retaliation. Most of the other employees acted casual around Ted, relaxing into the same tone and demeanor their boss portrayed. Deborah heard much of the chattering as pairs of groups passed her office on their way in and out. They talked about irrelevant sports games, gossip from their family life, and nights out at bars. Deborah avoided speaking about most of these matters, sure that if she mentioned her private life to any coworkers, she would lose the peaceful environment she had fostered on that office floor. It was a simple rule of thumb. Talk about others, others talk about you. As far as she knew, no one talked badly about her to other coworkers, and she avoided speaking lengthily to any fellow employees to ensure this continued. Except for Ted. By obligation, she needed to speak to her boss. If some act of hers offended him, Deborah thought she would lose her job. At that point, she might as well move somewhere new again, and she preferred to stay in the Upper West Side. No other area or apartment would welcome her presence the same. "Do you have any suggestions?" Ted's voice chimed. "What?" "I've never been here before," he said. "I'm not sure what to get. I thought perhaps you'd know all the dirty secrets of this place. Unless this is your first time here, too." "Oh, no." Deborah paled at the use of the word dirty. She carried on. "I've been here before. I always get the same thing." "It must be really good. See, I knew you were the right person to ask." Ted gave a friendly wink, and Deborah turned, hiding her face as her mouth gaped open in shock. She shut it before the surprise became too apparent. She needed to rein it in. She was a mother in her late 40s, not some naive teenage girl. Brushing her hands against her black trousers, she said, "My order's quite boring. Just the antioxidant berry smoothie." She thought about sharing her debate to buy the raspberry coastal smoothie, but stopped herself. If she strayed away from the necessities, this interaction may keep going, and it couldn't last any longer. It was her turn to order. After paying for her drink, she promptly stepped to the side, hiding herself amongst the crowd waiting for their purchases to get called out. Ted moved forward to the cashier and let his eyes roam around the hanging menu. After skimming through some of the drinks, his eyes jumped down to the food behind the glass, moving from muffin to biscuit to breakfast sandwich. After half a minute, he spoke to the cashier. "You know what? I'll take whatever pastry you recommend. I'm sure it'll be great. Thanks." The cashier rushed a scone across the counter, and Ted waved an apology to the people waiting behind him. The man in the brown suit scowled and was half shouting his order before Ted had left the front area. Ted bounded away from the upcoming customer's ambush and past Deborah, who unsuccessfully hid in the back, on his return to the elevator. "Thanks for the chat, Deborah. We'll have to talk again sometime soon. Good luck with Stanford." With an ingenuine smile, Deborah nodded to his comment and peeked over as the elevator doors closed. She started breathing again. End of chapter. Woo woo! Wow. Thanks for joining along. If you like this video. Subscribe if you want to keep following along. Next week we'll read chapter 10, and I have a little surprise for you guys, so stay tuned. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye!